Welcome everyone to our National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance webinar for February, the first webinar in our series of this year. We'll give folks just a few moments to join in. As you're joining, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, add your name, your location, and where you work. We'd love to see where everybody's from. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We're excited to have you here for our National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance webinar series. This is the first webinar of 2026, and we are talking today about building information technology career pathways in clean energy. And we've been joined by some great speakers today. Looking forward to the conversation, and we encourage everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. Let us know where you're from and where you're working. The National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance is convened with support from the Bank of America. We're very grateful to them for their ongoing support. The Interstate Renewable Energy Council builds the foundation for the rapid adoption of clean energy and energy efficiency to benefit people, the economy, and our planet. We're going to cover a few webinar logistics. If you are looking for closed captioning, it is enabled. Select Show Caption from the controls toolbar at the top or bottom of your screen. All listeners are on mute. Please do use the Q&A tab to send us any questions. We do have space at the end of the presentation questions and discussion. IREC does not allow the use of artificial intelligence note takers or bot participation in our webinars, so those will be removed. And just want to note that we will send you a copy of this presentation along with other follow-up resources and the recording after the webinar. So today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what the National Clean Workforce Alliance is, and also cover some of the findings from the recent questionnaire that we sent out to everyone. We have a feature presentation around a report and some new career awareness and awareness raising resources from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. And then we've been joined by Scholas and Urban Institute and my colleague Susan Eber for our feature presentations. And we're excited to have you all here with us. As we mentioned, if you are joining us, please let us know who you are in the chat, where you work, and where you're from. And with that, the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance really brings together a connected system or a connected ecosystem. We aim to bring together employers, workforce and education partners, training providers, researchers, funders, and policymakers working across clean energy and energy efficiency to identify best practices, share resources, make connections and collaborations possible with our peers across the country. And in 2026, we are continuing with our webinar series, including feature presentations co-created members. That's all of you. If you have thoughts or ideas for a topic that's important to you, please let us know. We're also making space for Alliance members to join us and add their perspectives. We are planning a Midwest convening this year, a special focus on the workforce ecosystem in Midwest states. So if you are from Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, or South Dakota, please reach out and let us know if you're interested in receiving updates or information about those activities. And I'm going to go into our Alliance workforce survey results, but peer-to-peer learning opportunities for smaller conversations was something that definitely came out as a wish across the folks participating. Audience highlights, we had a good mix of training providers, nonprofits, workforce boards. We unfortunately didn't make the question required or add multiple response selectors. So all of the folks that responded are also employers. Solar PV and energy efficiency were the top topic areas requested, with energy storage and heat pumps and HVAC close behind there. And then a good mix of folks interested in wind and manufacturing, and some emerging interest in deeper conversation around EV infrastructure and electric vehicles. Webinars were noted as the most flexible opportunity for participants to join in. About 50% of folks wanted deeper dives, opportunities for concentrated conversations around specific topics, and peer-to-peer roundtables. Preferred outputs, everybody loves the slide deck. Best practices and how-to recordings and resources and checklists, all about the same. And we had quite a few folks noting that the email with the slide deck and links to resources is the most useful output for sharing with colleagues. If you have other ideas about ways that we can provide useful outputs from these activities, please do let us know. Workforce populations, really strong interest came out in continuing conversations around providing opportunities for historically underrepresented populations. And the youth, women, veterans, and incumbent workers were tagged specifically as good opportunities for building sustainable career pathways, and that supports for those audiences are critical. And then there was also note that there are other geographic areas or targeted populations that need more specific focus, including rural communities and tribal communities, career changers, and returning citizens. So thank you, everyone that participated in our results to guide some of our decisions about activities over the year. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Susan Eber, and she's going to discuss a recent report that IREC produced.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday, middle of the week here. I'm sure everybody's been keeping busy. You always get to Wednesday and you go, how did I get to Wednesday so quickly? Same here. A little background on me. I'm with IREC. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Registered Apprenticeship Programs. I've been kicking around internships and registered apprenticeships since 2010. I originally started out working with our IT department at St. Petersburg College, helping to create an internship program as part of their AS degree. So it was kind of fun working on this because I remember being at it from the very beginning and watching IT and technology as it has evolved over the last 16 years, but also the way that it is evolved in terms of workforce. Next slide, please. There we go. So as we're working on this landscape analysis, there were some things that just weren't too surprising because I've seen them happening in other industries, but some other really good news that I want to share with you, and some very nice surprising facts about the intersection of IT and clean energy. The report was prepared by IREC in partnership with the Urban Institute. And what it is the landscape analysis of tech careers in the energy industry. We specifically focused on careers in clean energy, such as solar, battery storage, and energy efficiency. However, I think the information can apply more broadly into energy efficiency as a whole. An example of that would be sustainability specialists, which is a very interesting occupation that engages technology through uses of data and data analysis and things of that nature. So it really does creep into other occupations that might not specifically be labeled computer or data analysis. So I think that's important to know. We also cover the training, why people chose this work, the different career paths, and explore why the tech workers in this industry enjoy the work and the best way to keep them, to get them and retain them. So we had three different approaches here. The first was a literature review. And while there is a lot of research on IT and a lot of research on clean energy, specifically in the workforce, there's very little on the intersection of these two industries. Oh, my slides went away.
They're
Um,
back. I'm sorry, technical difficulty. Hold on, just a second.
okay, no
Yep.
worries. So let me just say that the gap isn't due to the lack of potential. There is a lot of potential in this industry for the intersection of these two fields, but it's probably that the are both are two of the world's most changing fields. IT tends to move very, very fast, and the clean energy is more physical and takes time. So if you're thinking about creating a solar farm or creating energy efficiency, weatherization areas. It's very physical. It takes a lot of planning. There may be permits that need to be pulled. Okay, go back a screen, go back a slide if you would. Do that. Um, so So the survey of tech, oh, so I'm sorry, going back to the literature review. So it tends to move very fast. Clean energy is more physical, as I mentioned. But that all said, there was a report by Deloitte in 2024, and as no surprise, they predicted that there would be an increase in tech skills needed in the renewable energy sector. Um, no surprise there, right? The second piece we did was a survey of tech workers. The survey was conducted by BW Research from May 2nd through May 12th in 2025. And the respondents, the survey was sent out to over 4 million workers in diverse computer occupations. Of that 500, we had 500 tech workers specifically in clean energy sector that responded. Um, the most common titles, I'll get into them a little bit more, were in leadership roles. So I will show you a little bit more about that research in the next slide. But the third piece was also a qualitative interview with clean energy employers, which is kind of nice because it really allows you to ask those more in-depth questions than and kind of respond to what they're telling you and ask why, as opposed to doing sending out a survey. So that was real interesting. And and some of those employers were in IT departments as small as two to larger utility companies that employed 500 IT workers. So depending on the employer and the scope of their company and what they were doing, the the work that they were doing included some database, some portal management for customers, data science, analytics, software, definitely security, and the one that I always count on the most, the help desk. Next slide, please. So what you see here is a comparison of the common IT job titles and those that responded in the survey. So the dark blue are the tech workers who responded and identified clean energy as the industry that they were working in. The light blue was those that completed the survey. They were outside the clean energy industry and they were in other industries. And you can see those titles below. They're a little small, but the largest group that you see there are the directors and executive leadership. So those are going to be your CIOs, your vice presidents, and then the smaller, the slightly shorter one to the left, those are the computer information systems managers. Those tend to be the folks that are directly managing the IT team. So really nice to see that we were able to get a good capture from the survey in respondents to that. Next slide, please. So let's get into the overview of the findings and what we found. 73% of tech workers in the clean energy report higher job satisfaction in comparison to those that were in other industries. IT workers in clean energy rate working for, quote, a company that is committed to sustainability and having a positive impact on the environment as highly important to them, with 62% saying it is very important compared to 42% of IT workers in other industries. So those that are working in finance or education, um, those folks working in clean energy specifically chose clean energy to do their IT work. And I think these findings suggest that it would be helpful for recruiters to highlight the unique benefits of working in clean energy and the opportunities to contribute to the mission. So as you see here, the industry interest is a primary driver for tech workers in clean energy, which I think gives us a lot of opportunity. The other thing we found is that the lack of diversity in IT workers in clean energy is consistent with IT workers in other industries. As I mentioned at the beginning, I've been kicking around this since 2010, and this was always a challenge as the field tends to be predominantly white male. So always in every position I've ever worked for, and so happy it's happening here at IREC. And what is showing in this landscape is a real push to increase the diversity of IT workers. And I will say that by and large, a lot of companies, a lot of employers really do want to see that diversity in conversations with them. So I think that's a good sign. We just need to help them find those candidates. Salaries were also consistent with IT workers in other industries, which is good news. Of course, we did have, I think, a couple of nonprofits that we interviewed, one or two. Salaries in nonprofits sometimes tend to be a little bit lower than for-profit companies. That certainly goes across the board. Next slide, please. So let's talk about skills training and certification. While the survey did kind of show that CE employers were likely to value experience certifications over experience, that also proved true in our interviews, that a lot of the employers felt that this was important. And to me, this isn't really a whole lot of surprise. Back in 2010, cybersecurity uh, degrees didn't even exist. Most of the folks that are CIOs or VPs of security didn't go to school for cybersecurity. It was a matter of getting those certifications. But I think it is great news to hear clean energy employers likely to value those certifications over experience and just to have that hard data. So let's talk about the certs they were looking at. First and foremost, A plus, no matter what industry, but specifically they identified A plus as important. Security plus, network plus, um, information technology infrastructure, which is referred to as ITIL. And then, of course, you have the CRMs, the customer management software. So a lot of those employers that we interviewed that had CRMs portals for their customers, those were important for their staff to understand how to use them and get their certifications where possible. In interviewing a company that works with two companies that worked with electric grids, they were specifically looking for tech workers who understood electricity. They were very open to hiring incumbent workers in other areas in their department and training them in IT. So I think that's real interesting to note, that knowledge of the industry is helpful, beneficial to learn about the clean energy technology, battery storage, solar installation. An example of this for one of the other interviews we had was with County Transit Authority here in Pinellas County, and I also spoke to those up in Detroit and found the same thing, as well as another state, which I can't remember right now. But the mechanics that were trained to work on those EV vehicles, those hybrid buses and electric buses, they were trained as mechanics. And now, working on these EV equipment, they are needing to be trained in other areas and learn how to operate computers. So, getting an A+ certification is definitely a benefit to them. As a matter of fact, two of the transit authorities I spoke with are putting solar panels on top of the buses because they find that they act as a power assistant and make the buses work more efficiently. So you can see we're slowly creeping towards incorporating more of this technology into the clean energy field. And finally, no surprise here, people skills, the importance of communication skills, listening skills, the ability to be able to work as a team in a team. IT tends to be very team oriented, different uh, different functions in the team, so everybody needs to know how to work together. So team skills are really important, communication skills, and also problem solving skills. And again, no surprise. We were in an interview yesterday with a journey worker electrician for another project we're working on. And when we asked him what are the skills that help an apprentice most, is people skills and problem solving skills, that ability to bring solutions to the table, to work independently, very important in the IT field as well. Next slide, please. So when we talk about career advancement, um, 74% had managed to workers in the field, and these were from the surveys, are looking for advancement and job opportunities. Now, these interviews that we did were done during last summer, so summer of 2025. And as we all know, there was stuff going on. So it kind of, not a lot of surprise that uh, IT departments were shifting around, probably based on budgets. But interestingly enough, when we talked to a lot of the employers that we interviewed, they said that they did have career advancement available and that they did have training to go with it. But not all of their employees may know about it. So that's when we were, as we were looking at the data from the surveys. One of the things I think the challenges which came out in the interviews with those career pathways is mostly around budgets. Remember, an IT department is not particularly generating revenue. While they're extremely necessary to the operation of the company, it is an administrative cost. So a lot of times, you've got these IT departments, and if anyone out there works in IT or has a partner, spouse that works in IT, you might hear them say, we need to hire more people. But it's those budget constraints that might make it a little tricky. Um, a few of the employers interviewed also mentioned that they contract out for the basic services like computer support. So that seems to be a go-to for a lot of companies, is to contract out for those help desk jobs. And in my experience working in IT, those entry-level jobs were sometimes, where someone came in and by the virtue of their performance and their ability to integrate into the company culture and grow with the IT department, they were often where they would get their start and move into career pathways into that company. So when you contract out, you're losing sometimes those valuable entry level workers. Next slide, please. So let's talk about outreach. So several employers that were interviewed mentioned that their HR departments perform the recruiting and or they use staffing agencies or job platforms like Indeed to recruit, or they hire interns from school programs. Since HR is administrative function of an organization, they may not always be connected to the department that they're trying to hire in a way that serves the department. So really helping make tech careers more visible, I think, and recognizable, because we do know that there are tech workers that are specifically choosing this area to go into. So we need to make them more recognizable here and increase the diversity. Um, I think the other thing is, ah, Green Workforce Connect, which will follow up here. So when we talk about platforms that you can use to hire people, you're going to see in with the next presentation, a little information about Green Workforce Connects, which could certainly be a great platform. So if you are looking to hire informing your HR department of that as a resource for them. And of course, we need to always consider diversity and emphasize outreach to underrepresented groups, including women and people from varied backgrounds. You're going to hear later in this presentation from a group that is doing exactly that and developing talent in those areas. Next slide, please. So finally, we talk about recruitment. And again, going back to more information where career opportunities are available and in demand. An example is looking at IREC's Green Workforce Connect, emphasizing the benefits of working in technology, in the clean energy, preparing for the future. Technology is always evolving. So preparing for the future, if you're working in an IT department, they're usually keeping up on what their needs are going to be, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. If you're educating in IT, looking at what the needs are going to be 2, 3, 5 years from now. And then I will always mention that it's critical for employers to identify pathways and any barriers that might exist in order to retain good talent. Good culture is always important. People stay in jobs where they feel wanted and used, are able to contribute and feel a sense of place. So always paying attention to the culture of your organization. Again, emphasizing the benefits of working, and then always utilizing internships and registered apprenticeship models. One of the companies I will say that brought in interns did use them to bring into the company as interns and then brought them in as full-time employees. So that's always a great way to bring in help. Next slide. So, oh, that's the retention. Sorry. So reduce barriers. Next slide. Covered that one. There we go. So to read the landscape analysis in its entirety, for some great reading material over the weekend, scan the QR code below to download from Green Workforce Connects. Thank you all for your attention this afternoon. Hope that there's some valuable information here that can help you, and I'm going to kick it over to Pagan.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks for bearing with me, Susan, when we had some technical difficulties, and everyone else. I also realized I forgot to introduce myself properly. I am Pagan Pajoni. I am IREC's Vice President of workforce strategy and innovation. Susan mentioned Green Workforce Connect. If you're not familiar with our umbrella workforce development platform, please do check it out. This is a platform that we developed to better connect job seekers, employers, training providers, and contractors. And there is a whole host of workforce development resources, tools, and templates. It's really built to function as a practical hub for developing a highly trained energy workforce across multiple different sectors. Green Workforce Connect is where you will find the landscape analysis and new resources that we have put out to support awareness raising and career exploration related to careers in information technology. We have a new landing page on Green Workforce Connect highlighting careers in information technology, and there is detailed information about common IT career areas. We've highlighted 5 sectors: software and web development, data science, information technology services, cybersecurity, and also included artificial intelligence and machine learning as an emerging area that so many of us are interested in learning more about, and is growing in opportunities for information technology career pathways in that space, although they don't yet have job codes. We have also included a career advancement pathway example for software developers, showing potential progression from entry level to mid-level to advanced. And we have 5 deep dive occupation profiles covering software developer, data scientist, computer user support specialist, information security analyst, and computer network architect. Each of the positions shows detailed information about those roles. And actually, since I can't get my screen to share the entire thing properly, and we're here, I think I can take you right to Green Workforce Connect and show you how to access the landscape analysis and the information technology career information directly. So right from the top navigation, under the opportunities section, you'll find a link to careers in information technology, and that is where you will find the career advancement pathway information and all of the occupation profiles in clean energy. And each of those includes detailed information about that specific occupation, including salary range, work environment, what the job is like, what earnings can be expected, etc. And I also want to highlight some other resources that are coming soon to support growth of information technology career pathways. We have some career story video interviews with current IT professionals coming. We have a new way to visualize career pathways with updates to the IREC career maps. We also have technical assistance available for employers or organizations that are interested in looking at registered apprenticeship pathways, particularly in clean energy, information technology sectors. And we have some opportunities to connect employers directly to candidates in Los Angeles, Detroit, Houston, Dallas, and North Carolina. These are all available through work that we have done with the Power IT Pathways project. And with that, we are going to pass over to our partners for Alliance member updates, starting off with Lindsay Tyson, Training and Technical Assistance Specialist at the Urban Institute. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hi, Pagan. Thank you so much. Thank you to IREC for inviting myself to come and chat with all of you today. I'm really excited to share more about the work that we're doing, and also looking forward to the Q&A that we have coming up. So I just want to quickly give a brief introduction of myself. Like Pagan said, my name is Lindsay Tyson. I'm with the Urban Institute. I'm a trainee and technical assistance specialist. I've been with Urban for 3 years, working primarily on apprenticeship-related work, but more broadly in workforce programs that are really setting up people for career and life-sustaining jobs. Before coming to the Urban Institute, I worked for a state apprenticeship agency. I'm based in the Madison, Wisconsin area, and worked for the Bureau of Apprenticeship Standards before coming to Urban. If we can go to the next slide. So the project that's been referred to a couple times is referred to as the Power IT Building Pathways to Infrastructure Jobs Grant. Bit of a mouthful. So a lot of times you'll just hear us referring to it as the Power IT project. And that's probably how I'll refer to it going forward. Let's jump over to the next slide. I want to give you guys a little bit of a background on the Urban Institute. Okay, so if you haven't heard of Urban before, the Urban Institute is a nonprofit research organization founded on one simple idea: improve lives, strengthen communities. We need practices and policies that work. So for the past 50 years, that's been our charge, equipping change makers with evidence and solutions to create a future where every person and community has the opportunity to power and thrive. Myself in the technical assistance role is Urban's adjusting and expanding to support the landscape that's needed in the world today. So I kind of think of myself as the do portion following up on these research opportunities. Urban also works in a lot of different areas. So apprenticeship is just one capacity that we work in, even within workforce development, but we have centers on health policy, justice safety division. So you might have heard of us in a different capacity. My colleague, John, is going to just share a link in the chat that goes to our apprenticeship site. Next slide, please. So the basics of the Power IT project is that we're looking to build a skilled IT workforce to meet the demands of the energy sector. It offers free job training in high demand IT occupations. That training is provided by our partners at Scholas, which we'll learn more about later. Workers' rights training for all participants. That is through our connection with the Communication Workers of America. Technical assistance for employers, launching both registered apprenticeship programs as well as creating pre-apprenticeship pathways. That is in combination with all of our partners, IREC, Urban, CWA, and Scholas are all leaning into that work and developing a clear IT career pathways in the energy sector. A lot of that landscape analysis and green workforce jobs is an expansion on those components of the project. Next slide. So as mentioned by Pagan, for this project in particular, we're looking at the areas of Dallas and the metro area in Texas, Detroit metro area in Michigan, Houston and metro in Texas as well, Los Angeles, California and metro area, and then the entire state of North Carolina is where we're working on this project. That being said, if there is work related to the Power IT project that's happening elsewhere, please don't hesitate to reach out and see if it's something that we can work with you with. We're also already a bit into this project. It goes until 2028. That being said, we're doing a great job so far in meeting the project deliverables. We can talk a little bit more in that on the next slide. So if we can go back one. Should be, oh yeah, why Power IT. Yep, perfect. I skipped a slide there. So the why Power IT, the energy sector is outpacing overall national growth by 50%. We know that there's a high demand for energy across the US, and it requires more than just one type of workforce to be trained and ready to support that. Urban wanted to take the opportunity to look at that area where we don't have a lot of cross-sector communication about the need for trained IT professionals and the needs of the energy workforce. So we're focusing on occupations in high demand, such as data analytics, software development, network support, analyst, and cybersecurity. And we did this in coordination with understanding what employers are looking for and what kind of skilled training providers are already in existence, putting out highly trained individuals in the IT sector and making sure that understanding that IT, though it has its own sector, there are IT workers across all types of industries, including energy. Next slide. The overall project deliverables include training 600 workers in high demand IT occupations. That's going to be delivered by Scholas. Job placements for those individuals, which is a coordinated effort across all of our partners. Launch of registered apprenticeship programs with high demand IT occupations, development of pre-apprenticeship pathways, and the IT career mapping, which we talked about a little bit already. The launch of registered apprenticeship programs within the high IT occupation demands is something that every partner on this project is bringing something to, whether it be the deep knowledge of the clean energy space from IREC, Scholas, and their training programs that they already have in existence, and Urban Institute's work on launching and developing registered apprenticeships and what we can do to help support that development. And I want to talk about that a little bit more and discuss our National Apprenticeship Resource Hub. So if we can go to the next slide. So Urban recently completed a project, the National Apprenticeship Resource Hub, which was contracted by Department of Labor, where there was definitely a need for there to be more occupations that are standardized and available off the shelf to make employers have an easier time when they decide they want to put together an apprenticeship program. This was done employer first. So making sure that everything that was developed when putting these standards together to create these off-the-shelf standards to work with was led by subject matter experts in the industry. What that looked like was first we worked with DOL to decide what are the occupations in demand and occupations in demand that also are going to provide sustaining wages for individuals going into them. After selecting the occupations, we had Urban Institute research team and a couple of other partners working together to put together occupational standards of registered apprenticeship and what we could find in our own research of what that occupation might look like. Now, understanding that none of us were subject matter experts in a majority of those fields, the next step was going to a minimum of 8 subject matter experts across the country, whether that be someone who's doing that job today, who manages that job, or who teaches in that occupation, to review those standards and tell us what we got right and what we didn't. We took all of those feedback and integrated it into each of the national occupational frameworks to make sure what was presented would be useful for anybody pulling it off of the shelf. A colleague of mine is going to share the National Apprenticeship Resource Hub, but think of this as a place where you can go and find standards in any of these industries. For this particular project, the standards we have in information technology have been incredibly resourceful to use and provide to employers right away. It doesn't mean that they have to use it in their entirety. We want to make sure this is as useful and helpful to employers as possible. So there's a ability for flexibility in what is provided and what is needed. But this is something that we are bringing as far as helping to support the development of apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs on this project. Next slide, please. The project partners include Urban Institute, Communication Workers of America, Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and Scholas. And I want to talk a little bit more about what Communications Workers of America is able to bring to this project, as they aren't able to join us today. So it would be, go to the next slide there. So this is one of the first projects I've had the opportunity to work on in workforce development, where we had a direct connection with a union providing workforce rights training to individuals. What does that look like? What does that mean, knowing your rights in the workplace? And they've built out this fantastic frameworks that has been seeing really positive response for the individuals going through it. A lot of us know that worker right training is not something that's available to most of us. I think the first time I had an opportunity for some worker rights training was after I had already been working for 10 plus years. So we wanted to find a way to incorporate that into what we were offering on this project. They start with looking at labor history, understanding the evolution of information technology, and specifically how IT workers have used their own organizing power. They jump into what do unions do, what is a labor union, union differences, how to build power. The third is knowing your legal rights at work. That doesn't just include what their legal rights are if they're represented by a union, but what are your rights in the workplace? This is another area that we oftentimes in traditional education don't have a ton of exposure to, and we wanted to ensure that they were going to have those opportunities as they're going through their training programs and what to think about as they get placed into future employment. Finally, workers' rights in action. This is going to give them an understanding of the existing IT union efforts that are happening, as well as what they would need to do and the steps and resources in place if they were ever considering organizing in their own workplaces. Next slide. So finally, I just want to give everyone the opportunity here, and my colleague will share the Power IT project page as well. But on the slide, you'll be able to use this QR code to follow up with the Power IT project. There is a form on the page if you want to be contacted directly, and I'm looking forward to the questions at the end of this, but I will now be passing over to Pagan to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. This project has been so fabulous to work on. I am thrilled to have Kelsey joining us from Scholas, and I'll pass it over to you, Kelsey. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here together. This is really exciting to see this group come together and see everyone at this place where we can be moving forward. I want to give a special shout out to Lynette in Chicago. Congratulations. I'm so excited to see you on this webinar. I love seeing all these groups come together. I'm with Scholas. We are a national nonprofit. And Pagan, I'm going to have you just go ahead and advance 2 slides for me. Scholas is the training arm of this agreement, and what we are doing is something we've been doing for a long time, listening to employers. We are focused in on looking at what employers need, where candidates might not have those opportunities, and what are the best opportunities to bring that together. We have been doing this for 30 years, and we will continue doing it for much longer. What we're looking to do is increase those employer relationships because we have lots of great candidates to tell you about right now. I'll have my next slide. Scholas partners with a lot of different companies and a lot of different organizations. You might recognize some of the names on these slides, but you might not always understand or recognize how we partner with these organizations. We have a lot of different ways we can do it. We can have employers sponsor specific training tracks or specific programs. So let's say you're connected to a data center and you know you have to do a lot with energy in that data center. We can help develop training and actually source a population for you to have a candidate base that is specifically set up for what you need with that company. We can do incumbent talent development. I think we all know this. Technology is coming no matter what we do in all different ways in all different places. Sometimes you do have a group of staff that needs to be upskilled, either quickly or for a longer time, and we can develop programs that'll work with you in that segment as well. But the last one is what I want to talk about more with y'all right now. We have curated recruitment opportunities. We have a network of 35,000 candidates over 30 years. Many of those are within 2 years of their graduation. Those folks within 2 years, that's who I want us to lean in and talk about right now, because we've already started the training for these candidates. We have graduates in 3 distinct career tracks that I'd love to talk with y'all right now. And I know we're going to do QA later. I'm seeing some names pop up, but anybody just stop me if I'm going off on a thing you don't want to hear right now. Let's jump to the next slide. We have 180 candidates currently available for y'all to review if you are interested, who are certified, trained, and practice in technical support. Technical support is one of those things that I think a lot of times when we hear about it, we might initially think, okay, a help desk person. But I would like to open folks' perception of this a little bit wider. These are problem solvers. These are folks who have the ability to look at the wider impact and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to get your staff on board, to get things functional, to get people where they need to be. These are folks who come from all different kinds of backgrounds. Some do come out of the construction background or energy fields, but many are coming from multiple different pathways. And that's important because every single one of these folks is coming to you with customer service and communication skills and experience. Something that sets Scholas apart from other training programs is that we do not do technical communication once. We don't do it twice. We practice it every single week with our candidates because we know technology is not effective. It's not useful if we can't use it. So we make sure and we practice with our candidates to say, not only do they have the ability to help you solve problems, they have the ability to help you figure out where the problem is. They have the ability to talk through those solutions with you. And they have the ability to really partner with organizations to advance their missions and support their staff. I'll jump to my next slide. We also have 34 software engineering graduates currently available to this training track or this program. Within those software engineering graduates, I like to encourage people to, again, look beyond the coding technology, look beyond the coding skill, and think about what that means. These are folks who, again, can step back and look at the full picture and figure out solutions that we might not, as people who aren't trained in this, have access to. These are people who are constantly researching new solutions and new technologies. And these are folks who have AI skills embedded in every step of their training. We're not training for something that's going to be obsolete next year. We're training in ways that people are going to continue to learn and grow. Another thing that I want to bring up that sets up Scholas as a different program, I think, than other programs is you do have really intensive training. We are 3 to 4 months full time for our training programs. They come in Monday through Friday, 9 till 4, and they do a full training program because we are really focused on that career with folks. But we don't stop after that 3 months. We work with our candidates for 2 years post-graduation, and we offer 2 years of no-cost alumni upskilling. So someone who starts out with this software engineering track will continue to grow, will continue to learn, and they will continue to add skills and capacities that can support energy industries and anything beyond that. My next slide. And then the last track that I want to give you all some information about today is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is something that I think people talk about a lot and understand rarely. But I want to look at this as this is someone who can understand an overall process. This is someone who can understand the entire life cycle of a product. This is someone who can pay attention not just to what does this mean for today, but what does this mean for next week, next year, and moving beyond that. We have specific manufacturing tracks for some of these candidates. We have specific focus in different industries because we know within these industries, this need will continue to exist. I've mentioned a couple of different things that set Scholas candidates apart and our programming apart, but the one I really want to lean into here is we continue to offer those resources in that 2-year time period because we trust our candidates. We trust what they have done and what they are getting to. I said that we do a 3-month intensive program, and it is intensive. We have extremely strict graduation requirements. We have extremely strict attendance requirements. And the reasons for this is we know that these candidates are preparing for jobs. We know that they're preparing for the real world. They are taking tons of experience, tons of lived experience, and translating it into their next career. And we want to make sure that once they graduate, they are prepared to go to work right away. We know our candidates are prepared. I'll jump to my next slide to give you a couple of examples of this. Thanks, Megan. And I want to give you an idea because I think these are some really good examples with National Grid of how we can look at a wider impact with our training track. It can be really easy to fall into a mindset of this person did IT support, this person only supports people in IT. But that's not the case. It's not one certification and that's the full candidate. Remember, these are not folks who are necessarily right out of high school, although some are. And these are not folks who are at the end of their career, although some are. Our median age is around 33 years old. So we are looking at candidates who have experience, understanding, and networks that they can then open up with you and your company. We already have a presence in clean energy, and we are really excited to grow it through this partnership. I want to reiterate the regions on my next slide. We have these 5 featured regions as the focus for this current project, but we have 20 sites nationally. So I bring that up to say, if you're thinking to yourself, I'm interested in some of this, but I'm not in those 5 areas, that's okay. We have over 20 sites nationally and a fully virtual program that we offer as well. So wherever you are, Perscolas is interested in coming back to help. I want to also really reiterate and keep in mind that we are working with our candidates to meet the goals of our employers. So we are very good about sitting down with our employers and asking, what are you looking for? What do you need? Our staff on the ground work with these candidates day in, day out for 3, 4 months at a time. So we know them well. If there is something you are looking for, we can definitely work that into our specific recruiting because that's what we're really looking to do. We're looking to connect people to careers and we're looking to connect employers with talent they might not otherwise have seen. Next slide. I want to make this really, really simple at the end. The best way to work with us is to hire our talent. Our alumni become our next employers, and we love that pathway. We want to open up more of those opportunities to folks. We want to keep that moving, and we want to have those conversations with you. I'm going to jump to my very last slide. I know I'm talking fast. I could talk about this forever, but I just want to share with everyone real quick this QR code on the screen right here. If you were to scan that, that'll give you access to a folder that has candidate flyers summing up those training tracks that I went through very quickly. And it also has Rebecca's specific information so you can get in touch with her. Rebecca will be able to, if you reach out to her, determine which person at Perscolas is the right person to help you achieve your employment goals, your hiring goals. Like I said, we'll have strong conversations to you to make sure we're getting you the candidates and the opportunities that you need. But I want to be really, really clear that no matter how you get back to us, we are so looking forward to talking with you soon. I think that's what I got, Megan.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. I love all of this work connecting people all across the country to good jobs.
Yeah, and I think I did it in under 10 minutes, so I'm feeling good about that.
I don't know, maybe a little fat. We've got good time for questions and answers. I would love
Awesome.
to invite the rest of our speakers back online to join us. This this has been great. Even though I've been connected to this project deeply, it's still wonderful to hear all of the information and successes that have been happening. We have a few questions that have come up in the chat. One is super easy, and I answered it already, but reminder, and I think we had one come in the QA as well. We will be sharing the slide deck and the recording by follow-up email after the presentation, and we will include all the links that have been shared in the chat as well so that you have a reference for that. We had a question, was there any data collected on whether tech workers in clean energy had prior experience in a different industry? And I think Susan alluded to this and probably has some information to share, but I do want to point out the landscape analysis itself does go into that. I think it's 83% of the folks that participated were clean energy tech workers that had previously worked in IT roles outside of the industry, which I think really speaks to the transferability of skills in this particular career area. And I think, Susan, you talked about mechanics, I think, or had an example that you shared of transferable skills.
The mechanics working in the transit authorities?
Perhaps, but I think it's pretty, like it came out fairly strongly that most workers that are working in information technology in clean energy have usually worked in other technology sectors.
Yes. Yes. And and that's not uncommon in technology for IT workers to shift from industry to industry. It's very common. You know, a lot of times they're chasing just the next, if they don't see a career path where they're at, they'll move someplace else. You're right. It was about 83% did work with others. And remember going back to looking at the occupations that responded, you can see that they were higher level occupations like CIOs, IT managers of departments. So, working in another industry and then getting an opportunity to go into clean energy and work at a higher level was what I could probably guess from looking at that data. Yeah.
Yeah, Kelsey, Anthony, do you have additional I mean, I'm sure given how long you've been training folks in this space and placing candidates, you can probably speak to skills transferability and where folks are transferring from or transferring to.
Yeah, I could pull data if people wanted to see the full where do Scholas candidates tend to come from. I could pull that for you. But what I will say off the top of my head is we tend to see folks transitioning into tech from usually an established career that's not fulfilling their. I'm going to be really honest. It's folks who are more curious, who want to be challenged. It's people who want to have a bit more of an opportunity to think on their feet, to move quickly, and to keep learning. We are always working with people who want to keep learning. I have a running joke with some of the candidates where they'll graduate and I'm like, you did a 3-month class. It's been, 24/7. You were in this. Great. You were done. You can take a breather. And they go, no, I want to sign up for another class now. And I have this mindset of, oh, I'm so glad you are in this field and I am not the person taking that training because we work with folks who are always looking to grow. They come from a lot of different backgrounds, but some of the larger ones are going to be folks who are working in customer service related roles. That could be retail, that could be server, that could be front desk or retail admin type work. We work with folks who are coming out of different types of security backgrounds, so they definitely already have a lot of experience with those different pathways. And then I'm actually going to hold off on saying a third because I'm not positive if I have the third category correct. So I'm going to wait on that.
Always good. We can always add follow-up information in the subsequent email. Interesting to note that folks are transferring into IT career training and IT career pathways from other job roles. And then in the clean energy sector specifically, we're seeing transfer from other industries into clean energy specifically.
Yeah, I would also just echo, we are training towards specific career tracks, but these are skills that can be used in so many different industries. And we have seen candidates who go a little bit through training and decide, oof, maybe this wasn't the career path I want, but I'm going to finish this. I'm going to use these skills and I'm going to apply them in other ways. We see a lot of folks have success in account management with technical companies. We have a lot of success in internal staff support. It grows. It grows when you start looking at yourself as having skills instead of just being a finished product. We see our candidates really, really improve their careers.
Megan, I was thinking about the question you were asking in terms of another angle. There were two employers that were bringing in their construction workers in from the field and training them in IT. So that they were looking at those employees that were in construction and trades because of their knowledge of the industry. And I think just talking to them, remembering the conversations, they knew the industry and they were looking for a challenge. So, sort of mimics what Kelsey's saying is that people that going into the field looking for a challenge, those folks were trained, brought into the IT department and trained and given the opportunity to get certifications as well.
Thanks, Susan. We also had a question, Kelsey or Anthony, this is coming back to you, related to how you screen candidates for training, or if there's, anyway, can you talk a little bit about that recruitment and outreach?
Yeah, we do recruitment and outreach in a lot of different ways. And if you ever want to really dig into all the different ways we advertise, we could talk about that as well. But I would say the largest portion of our candidates come through referrals because candidates who have done our training send their family members, moms, dads, sisters, cousins. Ooh, we get a lot of cousins that get sent to us because they've seen the success and the impact the training had on their family members' lives. When it comes to screening candidates, This goes back to what I was saying before. We are strict. We have high standards. Before someone is enrolled in our training, we make sure that they have legal status to work in the US. We talk with them about their scheduling capacity, their transportation capacity, how they're going to get around, what their actual overall goals are in training. We have a assessment for each training track, and it's going to be different for each one because we want to make sure that people are intellectually capable of finishing the training program. So we make sure that they do an assessment to ensure they have the base level of understanding they need to do this training. Sometimes that's technical information, sometimes that's more critical thinking related. And we also have a behavioral interview that is a part of every application process or interview process. That behavioral interview allows our recruiting and admission staff to really dig in with each candidate and make sure they understand what they're doing, they understand the responsibility of it, and they're going to be able to complete it. We don't want any bait and switch feelings. So if you have somebody going through our program, you're never going to have them get done and say, wait, I didn't know that's what an IT job was. They know that before they enroll with us. They're not going to get done and say, oh, wait, I didn't know a company was going to require me to submit my this documentation or that documentation. We have already done that with our candidates on the front end, and we do remind them of all those processes throughout the training. Because again, our goal is career change. Our goal is once they graduate, they're ready to move. We don't want to have to be getting that paperwork together. We don't want to have to be setting those expectations then. You graduate, and we want you to be able to go.
Thanks so much. Lindsay, this is probably a combo question. Question related to the fact that small and medium-sized employers often say that they don't have the administrative capacity to have a registered apprenticeship program. And there's curiosity around what current solutions and alternatives there might be, or ways that folks can connect. And I think probably your apprenticeship resource hub is a great place to go. And Susan, I know that you'll have some other resources and ideas to share as well. But Lindsay, do you want to say some more about that, supports for smaller businesses?
Yes. Absolutely understand that the administrative responsibility of a sponsor at a small and medium business can be incredibly daunting. The technical assistance, and I apologize, I'm getting a weird lighting thing here, but the technical assistance when Urban comes to work with any employer and they're interested in registered apprenticeship, that's one of the first questions, is understanding what their administrative capacity is. Depending upon what the business needs is what we look to for a model that's going to suit them best. Are you going to fit in better with a group sponsorship where you're just the employer of record? So you're handling what's happening at the job and paying the apprentices, but a lot of that administrative burden is handled by a group sponsor. Depending upon the location and where you are, that group sponsor, for example, if you were interested in using Scholas, it might be Scholas. It could also be a community college. There's a lot of different types of intermediaries that can really support what works for you. But absolutely, one of the first things we're doing when we're talking with an employer about what they need and what's going to work for them is discussing what kind of model fits best. The off-the-shelf standards is just one tool, but really having that direct technical assistance and making sure the solution is going to work for you and also be sustainable for you. The last thing I want to do is help someone put together a program that isn't going to be able to continue after a project or term ends. So I don't want to give all of the other possible ideas. I know Susan will want to share, but hopefully that helps answer some of those.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Thanks so much. Yeah, and I mean, we've done a lot of similar work in the IREC's Apprenticeships in Clean Energy Network, and Susan has provided a lot of technical assistance. So I'll pass it over to you, Susan, to see if you have any thoughts to add there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I always have to, and I say this whenever I meet with Urban, kudos to them because early when I started working with registered apprenticeships in IT specifically, their frameworks that they've created that are up on their website that Lindsay shared as one of the resources were one of my go-tos. So even if you're considering it, I would say take a look at them. If you're on the fence about making a decision, I think that they lay out a very nice work process Oftentimes, I know working in workforce, we kind of have a training and onboarding kind of thing that we do with staff, but the work done by Urban in that area is stellar and always great to go back to. Working with small and medium, yeah, as Lindsay pointed out, sponsors are generally the best way to go. In IT, you're not going to have those large cohorts like you do with an electrician apprenticeship in solar, where you may have a classroom of 20 to 25, and that's when sometimes it becomes a big task to kind of track everything. My experience working with IT registered apprenticeships is it's generally one or two. They're used to taking classes. They're in IT. They're interested in IT. They work really well in virtual training environments, so they're able to tap into that, and those can be cost effective. Using Cisco or uh, other learning platforms and organizations out there, so the training can be fairly simple. I think the mentorship piece can sometimes be the most difficult. Um, IT's you know, you want people to finish and to work on their project, and you don't want them coming to you. So that has always been a little bit of a challenge, and that's what I talk through with employers is, look, you don't have to. I think years ago I had one employer, so a software employer saying, I mean, this is like babysitting. It's like, no, it's not like babysitting. Construction and trades, they're very used to that mentoring and that journey worker piece. So a lot of time I spent with IT employers looking to get registered apprenticeship programs was really to kind of help them be comfortable with that mentoring piece, helping them to create boundaries around it so that they knew exactly what their job was in mentoring the apprentice, and very successful. I've set up a couple of very successful ones down here in Florida with SCC and Big Focus Software. Um, Know before I've worked with them. So yeah, so it can be done with small and large, but the cohorts are going to be smaller. So I think that kind of makes it easier to work with. And especially if you're working with someplace like Perscolas you've got um, you've got support services. Also, your local workforce boards can provide support services as well. So tapping into those resources, I think, is really important.
Yeah, it sounds like common theme, one-on-one technical assistance, that support is really critical, both I think what I'm hearing on the employer side and also on the job seeker side, like really making sure that everybody knows what they're getting into and the differences across different types of registered apprenticeship pathways and opportunities. It's a big
And
complex subject. I know Green Workforce Connect, there's also a lot of resources there for employers that are looking for more information about registered apprenticeship programs. And absolutely like echo that for smaller and medium-sized businesses that looking at joining a program that's already in existence is perhaps the pathway that is going to work the most smoothly.
Yeah, and just one real quick note here. I know we have a lot of employers in the clean energy, especially in the construction and trades. Those apprenticeship programs tend to be electrician for 5 years, carpentry, millwright, they tend to be longer. IT apprenticeships can be as low as 2,000 hours, which is 1 year to 2 years. Very rarely do I see anything go beyond. Lindsay, do you see anything in IT go beyond 2 years in IT apprenticeships?
Really depends. I don't want to, it's
Yeah,
what is
but
needed and it's the model, because it
yeah,
also can depend on how they're delivering the related technical instruction. But I would say
yeah,
on average, a IT-based apprenticeship is generally shorter than what we see in the trades, in the
yeah,
construction trades.
and
yeah, absolutely.
Chelsea.
yeah, I want to just make a quick note too for everybody listening and watching. We're talking about a lot of different types of programs, we're talking a lot of different ways. Apprenticeships can be done in so many ways. They can be registered, non-registered, short-term, long-term, through a union, independent, all different kinds of ways. They can be collaborative. And here's the thing, you don't have to know all that. You have to know what you're looking for as an employer. You have to know what your options are and what your needs are in this. Our jobs are to help y'all figure out what's going to be the best program and the best option for you. So in the same way that I have learned through this job at Scholas, I have learned that when I go to IT at our company, I don't say, hey, this is the problem and I need it fixed. Now what I do is I say, hey, this is what I want to do. I think this is the best way. Is this the best way? And 9 times out of 10, my IT team goes, oh, I mean, we could, but we could also make it better for you. And I go, yeah, I want it better. Make it better for me. Trust in the fact that we are here, we do this, we're in this all the time. We don't need you to learn all those specific names. We don't need you paying attention to all those things. We need you to know what's going to make your business successful and be open to talking with us about that, because we can help you figure out the right program, the right connection, the right options for you. But you got to step up and let us know what it is you need. That's where the biggest, I think, the biggest impact that the employer can have in making the right one. And we'll always, if we're not the right one, we'll connect you with other people. We'll keep it moving. We're not going to just say no and let you go. There's a massive amount of resource, information, and experience on this panel in front of you. We're not going to just drop it.
And throughout the entire National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. And I think that this is a great wrap up to our Q&A section today. I think we covered everybody's questions. Really, this is about sharing the fact that there are resources and people all across the country on this panel, in the chat, folks joining us, and really broad connected networks of folks that I think all of us share a common goal in some ways, which I will sum up by saying, good people need good jobs all across the country. And workforce development and all of us collaborating and working together is how we make that possible. A couple of last notes. We have some upcoming webinars and events. The next Clean Energy Workforce Alliance webinar will be April 22nd, same time frame, 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Look for registration details and information about what that webinar will feature, but feel free to place a hold on your calendar today. We're also doing another webinar with the Chesapeake Solar and Storage Association around retaining and growing talent, internal workforce development in clean energy. That is March 5th at 1 p.m. and we'll include the registration link for that in our follow-up. And then IREC staff will be at the National Home Performance Conference in April, and also the Apprenticeships for America Summit in May. And encourage anybody that's going to an event in the next few months or has a webinar coming up, please feel free to share it with folks in the chat. I do want, as a final note, to encourage you to stay connected with the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. We are ever so grateful to the Bank of America for sponsoring these opportunities for us all to come together. You can visit the Alliance webpage for updates and resources and events. And we also really encourage you to join the Alliance LinkedIn group. That's a great place to ask questions or make connections with other folks that are in this space that may be able to point you in the right direction. And I want to thank everyone again for your time and the work that you're doing to advance a strong, inclusive, clean energy workforce. And thank you. That is the conclusion of our programming today. Lindsay has included her email in the chat. I will do the same, and we will share contact information in the follow-up email as well. So thank you, everyone.